I wish somebody had convinced me to start saving and investing when I was younger. I wish I'd read some book or a family member or a friend had just drilled it into my head so that I did start saving when I was younger. Unfortunately, I didn't start until I was 50. If you're younger than that, you can start now and get ahead of the game. If you're older, it's never too late. Hello YouTube, this is my 8th week of retirement and I'm just throwing out another video on saving and debt. Hope you enjoy. It's easy to know or to learn how to save money. It's harder to actually do it. The sooner you start, the less you'll need to save. The time to start saving is now. Let's get to the numbers. All this information comes from calculator.net, the investment calculator, and there's a bunch of other calculators on there too that you can use. I set these all for a return rate of 8% compounded quarterly. First, we'll look at what it takes to save $1 million in 10 years. I used an 8% return rate compounded quarterly. The contribution that you'll need to make monthly is $5,500 for a yearly contribution of $66,000. So at the end of 10 years, you'll have a little over $1 million, but you will have contributed $660,000 and your money would have made $349,000. If you want to make $1 million in 20 years instead of 10 years, would you have to contribute half as much? Nope, even less than that. You'd go down to $1,700 a month for an annual investment of $20,400. So you're going from $66,000 a year to $20,000 a year. Let's look at why. Your total contributions are $408,000, while your interest, the money that your money has made for you, is $593,000. That's a huge difference, but that's the power of compounding over time. Again, the earlier you start, the better off you're going to be. As you can see, on year 14 is when you hit $500,000. So it takes 14 years to get $500,000, but then just another 6 years to make the second $500,000. To accumulate $1 million in 30 years, your contribution, your monthly contribution, is a little bit more realistic, $675. As you can see on this one, your total contributions are $243,000. They've come way down. You've got time on your side working for you. Your total interest, the money that your money has made for you, is $758,000. Again, get that money working for you as soon as you can. You'll see when you start getting up to $100,000, $200,000, your money is making a lot of money for you every year. As you can see here in years 10 through 30, you hit $500,000 at 23 years. But it only takes you another 7 years to make that other $500,000. The more you can save earlier, the better off you are. If you're young and you plan on having 40 years of savings, then you've got it the easiest at a contribution of $290 a month, $3,480 a year, and that'll get you to $1 million in 40 years. You get to $500,000 in 32 years, but once you've got that big money working for you, it only takes you an additional 8 years to get to $1 million. If you're like most people though, you didn't start saving at 20. I know I didn't. I didn't really start saving until I was 50, although I saved a little bit when I was in my 30s. I had $70,000 by the time I was 50, and from 50 to 56, I grew that to $500,000. And I did that by putting in an average of $40,000 a year, which most people aren't going to be able to do that. Again, the earlier you start, the less you have to put in. If you've got 40 years of savings, look at your total contributions, only $139,000. So that money that you put in over all that time that you have is what really does the hard work. $864,000 in just your money working for you. But the lesson here is start early and save as much as you can when you're younger. Because once you get up around $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, the interest you're making every year just on the money you have invested can be amazing. For every $100,000, you're going to average about $8,000 a year. I have $500,000 saved. So even if I stop putting money in and I don't invest another cent into it, in 10 years I'll have well over $1 million. As a matter of fact, in 9 years I'm projected to have $1 million. I might just go out and get a part-time job, what they call barista fire, and just let my money work for me. And at 10 years, I'm pretty certain I'll have $1 million or pretty close to it. That's another benefit of saving early. Once you get enough money that's working for you and making more money for you, you can let off the gas, you can coast, you can take it easy a little bit. I just want to talk a little bit about investing. On these charts I've showed you, an 8% interest rate, and that's an average that you can expect from the stock market. In the last 6 years that I've been investing, I actually had an almost 10%. It was 9.97% yield rate or return rate on my investments, which is mostly stocks. 8% is just the average. What really happens in the stock market is 1 year you might make 8%. The next year you might make 2%. The next year you might make 15%. The next year you might make a negative percentage. You might actually lose money. That has happened to me in the last 6 years. But over a long period of time, the stock market has always gone up. And that's what we can expect in the future. I'm not giving you any guarantees, but there's a very good likelihood that the stock market will continue to rise. Okay, so we've talked about savings. Let's talk a little bit about debt. If you want to build wealth, debt should be repulsive to you. It should make you recoil in disgust. It should be, oh, dude, disgusting. Oh, I don't want debt. I don't want debt in my life. That's how you should feel about debt. Debt is the opposite of building wealth. Building wealth is buying assets, putting your money to work by buying. In the stock market, you're literally buying small pieces of other companies. And because you're lending them your money, they're paying you back in interest and dividends. And that's how you make money in the stock market. With debt, you're borrowing money. You're taking money from somebody else, and then you're paying interest to them. So debt and building wealth, totally opposite. You want to be on the building wealth side, not on the debt side. If you want to be wealthy and not just make other people wealthy, then you should stay as far away from debt as possible. And I don't think you want to spend your life just making other people wealthy by being in debt. Build your own wealth, not someone else's. The average credit card debt in this country is $8,000. The average interest rate is 25%. That equals $2,000 a year that you're paying in interest if you have the average credit card debt of $8,000. That's $2,000 that you're taking away from being able to spend or save or do whatever with. That's $2,000 out of your pocket just for having credit card debt. The average auto loan interest rate is about 10%, and the average auto loan is $30,000. That's $3,000 in interest that you're paying every year. $3,000 in your pocket if you didn't have auto loans. So between the average credit card debt and the average auto loan, you have $5,000 a year that you're paying in interest rates. If you're the average American paying $5,000 in interest rate, think of what you could do with that $5,000. Well, that's $416 a month. At the end of 10 years, you'd have $75,000. Your total contributions would be $49,000, and the interest that your money made would be $25,000. Debt is not something to take lightly. It's something that destroys your wealth. If you want to retire early, or maybe just retire at all, get out of debt, stay out of debt.